Hello Wolfpack, going to be looking at reserve rights here, RSR, and we looked into this I think about a month and a half ago, and we essentially made a price prediction of around 36 cents. First thing we're going to do in this video, that a lot of you guys aren't going to be happy with, is actually draw down that price prediction, and that's not because of anything to do with RSR. I'm still the same amount of bullish on RSR as I was back when I made that video, but the point of me bringing down my price prediction is the fact that, well, my prediction model has changed since then, because as I said in the RSR video, my prediction model relies on the closing price on the 1st of October, and we've had that closing price in between those videos, and so my new prediction would be 28 cents based on the same prediction model, which is the fact that Bitcoin reached its all-time high around the same time that RSR reached its all-time high at 12 cents. Bitcoin reached 64k. Assuming Bitcoin will go to my price prediction of 113k, which is just under half. We extrapolated that data, added 50% returns because RSR is an altcoin and that will outperform Bitcoin by around 50%, in my personal opinion. And then we extrapolated that data and took it to 28 cents. So 28 cents is the new price prediction. It's got nothing to do with RSR itself. That's just my prediction model changing. And 28 cents is still extremely bullish, right? That's still, at 3.6 cents right now, all right? So 28 cents is we're looking at 677% returns, which is pretty phenomenal, right? And obviously there's coins out there you can get better returns, but from what I'm seeing is a 6 to 7x on a coin in about a 3-month period seems pretty good to me. I don't really know how you could be angry about that. So seems good, and we're looking at the daily chart right now. And essentially, we're just having a quick update on RSI because I know some of you guys are holders, and some of you guys are holders because of that video I did. And I really I feel the need to update it, especially for those guys. But also the RSI community is pretty strong, and I really appreciated some of the support I got in the last video. So let's go in, let's check out what's going on here, check out the updates, and we'll check it out. All right, so what we're seeing on RSI essentially is consistent higher lows, right? So we've had higher lows consistently, which is good to see. We had a little bit of an upset here where we had this inverse head and shoulders pattern, and we kind of failed to break upwards, right? The neckline is up here. We've had a little rejection in the short term that has kind of, thrown that off course a little bit. That was the Bitcoin rejection from 67k. We had a bit of a correction there, which we predicted actually, but altcoins got dragged down a little bit because of that, and RSI unfortunately was mid-move when that happened. No doubt if that happened 2 or 3 days later, we'd be trading up here at prices of around 62 cents in my personal opinion, because it would have had time, maybe 2 or 3, 4 days, would have had time to play out perfectly that inverse head and shoulders pattern. At the very least, we would have been retesting the 52 cent resistance and, possibly rejecting off of that. But the point is, it was ruined a little bit, but no fear. We did have that buying volume come in. We can see a little bit of a spike here we saw in RSI. We saw a little double bottom as well. And we're still consistently making higher lows, which is good to see. But even though that short-term inverse head and shoulders pattern is ruined, we do have multiple things to look at for RSI that I want to get into this video. Well, the first thing we want to look at is the fact, and we already knew this from the last video, but we had that cup and handle formation here that we'll draw out from around July, and we broke past the cup, the top of the cup there in around mid-August. We entered a downwards channel, which is the handle, a sharp one as well, and we managed to, and I'll just show you in a second, we draw that as a wedge as well, by the way, but it's not actually a wedge, it's a channel, right? Cup and handle formation, and we managed to break that one to the upside. We came back down, we had a nice little retest of the handle and headed upwards. We've been heading upwards ever since. We haven't been headed upwards too sharply though, right? It's been a pretty gradual move, but it's nothing to worry about, because what we can go ahead and do, and let's remove this circle here, what we can go ahead and do is draw a new pattern that's actually come up in the RSI chart, which is an upwards channel formation, okay? Within this downwards channel and after the breakout, we've been seeing an upwards channel formation on RSI. Let's try and get this perfectly here. We can see something like that, right? And, what we're seeing here is we're bouncing up and down between these channels. We've just recently, or, we kind of have tested the bottom, so the next move to the upside, the next move will be to the upside to retest the top. So let's see what happens there. We can move this back, we can fix this back up, but essentially an upwards channel formation, for those of you who don't know, has around a 67 to 70% chance of breaking bullish, right? So there's a decent chance we'll break bullish. If you add that to the fact that the market is looking excellent, I'd say that's an 80% chance, and then what you can do is you can start adding in other factors, right? We have the stochastic RSI, which is on a complete flat line at the bottom here, right? We've completely bottomed out, we're undervalued there, which will be swinging upwards shortly, so that brings it up to about a 90% chance. And then what we can see is well, we're on the verge of a bearish MACD cross here, which is interesting to see. So what we need is short-term spiky price movements to make sure that doesn't happen. What do we have to suggest that, right? What we do is we have the SMAs. All of those are compressed within a region of literally 1 cent, right? Every single short to medium term SMA we have, which is the 12 or 26 in the 100, which is what I use to get a good representation of the short and medium term SMAs, are compressed into a region of about 1 cent, sorry. And that means that we're literally on the verge, and I mean quite literally within the next 24 to 48 hours, we will be making a considerable move either to the upside or the downside. Now, obviously, if we see that move to the downside, then that MACD cross is going to play out their bearish run, and we might actually be falling below this channel, right? So it's something to keep an eye on. We do have the Gaussian channel here, and we've just recently flipped that for support. So there is a little bit of extra evidence, and I would say that we're probably leaning towards an upwards breakout, right? Not potentially out of this channel, but if we do see that bounce off of these SMAs here, we could be moving to the top of this channel, which would line up with this major resistance zone at 52 cents. 5.2 cents. Sorry if I've been mucking that up recently in this video. 5.2 cents, where we could be rejecting back or downwards to the bottom at around 4.4 cents before moving upwards. That would be an interesting scenario. So I'd be looking for that to happen personally. I think that's probably the most likely scenario, right? So let me explain that again. We've compressed on the SMAs. We've got that bearish cross on, incoming right now. We've bottomed out on stochastic RSI. We've got the Gaussian channel as support. If we bring up the VVPR, we can see we're literally right on top of a major support zone and resistance zone at the same time, where there's a lot of buying, selling contention, right? So there's a lot of buying pressure and a lot of selling pressure. It's basically an area in which people, bears and bulls, can't really come to a conclusion in their battle, right? Neither one of them is really winning. But what we can say is that, well, as I said, we're making higher lows and we're making higher highs as well. So we would say, and in accordance to that, and also because of the fact that we do have stochastic RSI bottoming out, I would say it's more likely we're going to break to the upside. And if we do break to the downside, well, we have a lot of support, right? We have the top of a major support box lining up with the bottom of this, channel, which is actually support as well, right? So if we break to the downside, in my opinion, there's very low risk. If we break to the upside, there's very high reward. That's how I'm looking at the daily chart for RSR right now. I think it's looking pretty bullish, right? I think that 24 to 48 hours, maybe 72 hours, right? But possibly within the next 24 to 48 hours, we will be breaking the upside. The only thing I can think of that would ruin that is probably Bitcoin, right? And that's why there is obviously a chance we break to the downside. Bitcoin dropping again, coming back down into the 50K region. High 50Ks would definitely throw RSR, of course. There's no doubt about that. But if Bitcoin holds steady, I think the natural price action would be a swing to the upside of this channel, testing that 5.2 cents area, coming back down to 4.4, and then breaking upside into December, right? And that's where we'll start making some moves towards our all-time highs in December. So I'm interested in RSR. It looks interesting. That's just a quick update for you guys. As for another thing I wanted to bring up on the daily chart is the fact, and we'll start removing some of these channels, because I did bring up some fractals in the last video. A lot of you guys would have seen those fractals that I brought up, and the main fractal I will say that I brought up was the fractal back here from August 2020, actually around the same time last year, okay? And what we saw, and this is interesting, right, because this is literally from the same time last year, right? We saw a peak here in August, but that's not what I want to bring up. What I want to bring up is the fact that, well, this looks very similar. This whole construction looks very similar to what we're seeing here, right? We saw a peak here, we saw a peak here, we dropped downwards, we saw a W formation, right? We dropped downwards, saw a W formation, moved to the upside, we moved to the upside, and then we saw some, downwards, slightly, slanting downwards chop, right? Slanting downwards chop, and then we broke to the upside. What we've seen here, slanting downwards chop, right, on a larger scale, and then obviously the assumption that we're making, and what I just said about the daily chart, is that, well, we should be breaking to the upside, maybe a slight rejection here, and then continuing that break to the upside, right? I will note that in this move back here, we didn't actually reject from that region. That would be relative, if the fractal trait plays out again, that would be relative to 5.2 cents. So maybe we just zoom right past it. That'd be interesting to see. We have already tested it previously in August, but we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. Obviously, fractals aren't identical; they don't play out the same all the time, but the structure is there. I think it's pretty clear to say the structure is there. Let me draw that again. We've got that W formation, peak, a bit of chop, and then break. All right, we calmed down. We've got that W formation. We peaked, a bit of chop, and then a break, right? It looks very similar to me personally. So that's what I'm going to be looking at for RSR on the daily chart. As for the weekly chart, same thing really. I mean, we just looked at our price prediction, which is 28 cents. I think you could reach 28 cents. You know, worst case scenario, absolute worst case scenario, we should be able to get past our all-time high, right? There's no reason why we won't be able to get past our all-time high. I mean, the fundamentals have only improved since we reached that all-time high back here in April, and we're coming up on the most parabolic phase of the bull market, right? This was just like a miniature bull market we had before the real blow off top, which happens in Q4 every bull market. So I see no reason why we couldn't reach 28 cents. At the end of the day, 28 cents is only about, just over a 2x from 12 cents. So to me personally, it seems pretty conservative. But hey, if this bull market throws us something that's unexpected, who knows what could happen. But, I would say that, my eggs are in the basket that that 28 cents will be reached in this bull market. If we look at, and we'll go back to the weekly chart for a second, we do also have a flat line on the MACD, which is interesting to see. Every time we see a flat line on the MACD, we saw one here, for example, and that's actually lines up with our fractal, right? This happened about the same time as that fractal we were talking about in the daily chart. We saw a flat line here, and, after that flat line resolved, we end up seeing push to the upside. And, obviously flat lines in MACD aren't sustainable. So after this flat line resolves, sorry for that, we will be pushing to the upside. That is basically a 99% chance in my personal opinion. I really don't see how RSI could drop because, we're looking at Bitcoin, we're looking at the altcoin market cap, the total 2 index. We can see that, this whole cycle, and this is getting to cyclical theory, is playing out as expected, right? Everything that happened in the last cycle and in 2013 cycle have happened, right? We saw that red September, we saw the retest of a 20-week SMA on Bitcoin, and we're heading upwards in Q4, right? Everything's playing out perfectly. I said we predicted that Bitcoin drop recently. That was the end of October correction. We saw that in both 2013 and 2017. It seems like it's just repeating what happened in the past. And if it does that, we should continue to head to the upside on Bitcoin. Bitcoin will be topping out in late December, but I think possibly early January, right? My prediction is early January. I think it's the 3rd of January, 113K. That's my prediction based off of cyclical theory. And then after that point, only after Bitcoin tops out, RSR and most altcoins will be making their most spiky moves, right? Obviously, it's different for every altcoin. You do have a few altcoins that top out with Bitcoin, but usually what you see is general uptrends until, Bitcoin tops out, and then it starts to get really spiky after that point. So I wouldn't be expecting anything different for RSR, especially since it hasn't actually seen a bull market yet. We're just kind of going in blind. So we have to assume what the majority of altcoins do, which is that they top out after Bitcoin. As for the Bitcoin pair, we identified this triangle. We were about late August when we did our video on RSI. We said we're going to come down to the bottom of this triangle. We saw that, we did predict that, and we saw that happening. And that was due to the fact that, Bitcoin's going to have a bit of a rally to start off the bull market again. We saw that happening perfectly. We've just come off. We've actually bounced off of the bottom of this. We're coming back down and retesting it again right now. And so what we can expect now is bounce to the upside and then a breakout, right? And if we take a target for this symmetrical triangle formation from the first test of the bottom to the top, right? And we add that to the breakout spot. And as I said, I think Bitcoin's going to be topping out in early January. And I also said that I think that the bulk of the move for RSI will happen from after Bitcoin topping out, from when after Bitcoin tops out. So that will bring us to a price prediction on the Bitcoin pair of around 360 sats, right? 360 sats, which would be an all-time high. And that would be, we can look into it right now. I think it's about a 6x. Yeah, about a 5 to 6x from current prices, right? So the Bitcoin pair looks good. The Bitcoin pair looks prime for all-time highs. The USD pairs look prime for all-time highs in the next few months as well. And, we've got some fractals playing out. We've got some, sending channels playing out. Yeah, that inverse head and shoulders were ruined. That's not what we really wanted to see. But if you haven't entered RSI yet, this is very important, right? If you haven't entered it yet, and there's a lot of people who wouldn't have entered yet, and if you are interested, obviously you need to research the fundamentals, because I haven't spoken about the fundamentals in this video, but if you are interested in the fundamentals and you want to enter RSI, I would be waiting to see what happens from the congestion of these SMAs here, because obviously it's going to happen very quickly, and if you start to see a quick move to the upside, that's probably a buy signal, right? And that's probably an entrance zone for RSI from all the things we've talked about. But if you start to see a quick move from a downside, maybe wait until we retest this major support box here at around 3.2 cents before entering. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.